Troma's back, baby. On the big screen and with a bigger budget. Hi everybody, Anthony here from Awesome Anthony Productions, and today I'm going to give you my review of Lionsgate's remake of the Toxic Avenger. But before we get started, please leave a like, and at the end of the review, if you think I've earned it, please subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified whenever I post. Now on to the review. This movie does something that I never expected to see. It gives the Toxic Avenger an actual story. This time around, Peter Dinklage stars as Winston Goose, a mild-mannered janitor just trying to make ends meet and provide for his stepson Wade, played by Jacob Tremblay. Winston's life already kinda sucks enough, but working for a cartoonishly evil pharmaceutical corporation run by evil billionaire CEO Robert Garbinger, played by a delightfully unhinged Kevin Bacon, just makes things even worse. And after being ambushed by Garbinger's sadistic goons, led by his twisted, deformed brother Fritz, played by Elijah Wood, Winston is tossed into a vat of toxic waste, mutating into a monstrous, superpowered vigilante who wants to take the fight back to the people who made him this way in the first place. Thus, a new legend is born, a walking, mop-wielding symbol of justice, the Toxic Avenger. Now, full disclosure, I was never really a fan of the Troma movies. I respect them for their grindhouse energy, their scrappy creativity, and their commitment to truly insane low-budget filmmaking, but they've always just been a little too messy and gross for my personal tastes. This actually feels like something new, while still keeping that Troma DNA pulsing underneath every frame. It's silly. It's ridiculous, it's incredibly violent, but it's also heartfelt and way more emotionally grounded than you expect about a little mutated guy swinging around a mop like it's Thor's hammer. Now let's address the whole hashtag #NotMyToxie drama that was all over the internet when this movie was first announced. I wasn't precious about the original. That is my favorite Troma movie, but I was able to definitely put that aside and be excited to see what Peter Dinklage was going to bring to this role. Spoiler alert, he's phenomenal. I do have to make the distinction, it's not Dinklage underneath all the makeup though. That honor belongs to Luisa Guerrero, a 4'9" British and Portuguese actress who absolutely kills it as the body of this ugly yet totally badass mutant hero. And honestly, massive respect to her for performing that well underneath a ton of prosthetics and makeup. Still, Peter Dinklage does own this film, especially in the first act. Before Winston becomes Toxie, he's already a very compelling character. A man with nothing going for him, stuck in a dead-end job, disrespected by everyone around him, and just trying to hold his own as a stepdad for a kid who doesn't even want him in his life. You get the sense that Winston is so used to being stepped on or stepped over that it doesn't really faze him anymore. Then comes the gut punch. He's diagnosed with brain cancer, screwed over by his insurance company, and he gets zero help from the CEO of the corporation he works for. That is Winston's breaking point, and Dinklage tells every bit of Winston's despair and later his fury. By the time Winston transforms into the Toxic Avenger, you are fully rooting for him to get revenge. And even after Guerrero steps in to give Toxie's physical performance, Peter Dinklage still brings a lot of soul to the voice. He keeps Winston's humanity intact through his voice performance, layering his rage over a core of empathy and sympathy. It's the perfect combo, and honestly, I could give a shit less whether this Toxie's towering over everybody. He's great, and the rest of the cast more than holds their own. Jacob Tremblay is one of my favorite young actors, and I think he did a great job with Wade's arc here. Kevin Bacon is having the time of his life as Garbinger, chewing every piece of scenery in sight.
Do you realize what's at stake here?
Everything! And his character is the kind of villain that you really just love to hate. You're excited whenever he comes on screen. Julia Davis as his assistant Kissy adds a hilariously desperate vibe. Obsessed with him in a running gag that cracked me up almost every time. But let's talk Elijah Wood's Fritz, because oh my god, this character looks like he crawled straight out of a Tim Burton fever dream. His Batman Returns penguin-esque design is disturbing and brilliant, and Wood's performance is just as unsettling as he looks. Him and his gang, the Nuts, bring a pure chaotic energy to every scene they're in, and I couldn't get enough of it. Then there's Taylor Page as JJ, a character that was hardly marketed but surprisingly has a pretty big role in the story. She's got great platonic chemistry with Winston, and while she's not overflowing with personality, she's a solid addition to the team that moves the plot along, especially in the action-heavy third act. Speaking of which, let's talk about the movie's world building real quick, because that's practically a character in and of itself. St. Roma's Village, where this takes place, feels like a perfect progression of Troma's roots. This setting is absurd and over the top in the best ways, complete with gleefully profane newscasters, crowds that cheer on public carnage, and little sight gags just sprinkled all over the place. They even sneak a few jokes into the location cards whenever they have an establishing shot. This world feels alive, gross, and cartoonishly violent. And I mean that as a compliment. Every frame is filled with detail, humor, and love for the original Troma spirit. Now, I've gotta be real, this is not a flawless film. I expected a bit more, so there was a few things that disappointed me. First, the gore. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of bloody violence here, and some kills are deliciously brutal. But compared to the original's audacity, this one feels a little bit restrained. Being released unrated, I was expecting some true nastiness here, like a full-on blood and gore fest, especially after movies like Terrifier 2 and 3 really pushed the limits for the big screen. What we got was fun, bloody, pretty gory here and there, but I was expecting a lot more, especially considering the original, which has a scene of a preteen getting his head run over. What we got feels like it really could have been R-rated. Like, I've seen nastier stuff in R-rated horror movies in the last couple of years, and it feels like they just pushed the whole unrated label for marketing reasons. Second, the social commentary. The corporate greed and broken insurance system really does work and gives Winston a lot of motivation to get shit done. But there are moments where the movie really pumps the brakes to hit you over the head with that message, and it feels very heavy-handed. And while I do appreciate what the filmmakers were trying to say and the sense of humor with which they did it, I do feel like that's going to pull a few people out of the story, especially nowadays when everybody's so hyper-aware to that kind of shit. But honestly, even though those things did pull me out of the movie here and there, I still had a ton of fun with it, and they're more nitpicks than anything else. This remake does what a remake should. It updates the story, adds more depth to the characters, respects the source material, and brings it all together with a ton of energy. The performances are great across the board, the humor is frequent and sharp, and the world feels like a love letter to Troma's gonzo legacy. It's not just gore for gore's sake. There's a real heart under the slime here. And even if you're not a fan of Macon Blair or Troma films, this is still an absolute blast. An unapologetically weird, over-the-top, violent superhero movie that embraces the absurdity and still ends up being surprisingly emotional. And that's my review of The Toxic Avenger. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this review, you know exactly what to do. I said it at the beginning. Please leave a like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to be notified whenever I post a new review. While you're at it, you can scroll down in the description below, find the links to my socials, leave a comment, let me know if you saw this movie and what you thought. And if you want more of my content, you can click or tap on these cards right here. They'll take you to my review of Caught Stealing or just over to my channel where you can check out the rest of my reviews. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you next time for my review of The Conjuring: Last Rites.